The amphitheater's holographic projectors hummed with sterile efficiency as Professor Aliana adjusted her cranial interface, the neural dampeners in her temples glowing faintly blue. 300 xenobiology students from 47 species filled the tiered seats, their various appendages, sensory organs, and breathing apparatus creating a symphony of alien biology that never ceased to fascinate her. "Today," Aliana announced, her voice translated instantaneously into 234 languages through the Universal Communication Matrix. "We examine Category 7 xenofauna, species deemed fundamentally incompatible with sapient cohabitation." The central display materialized a rotating three-dimensional model of a creature that resembled a fusion of reptilian aggression and mammalian unpredictability. Its designation scrolled beneath: Tyrannies Carnifex, Homeworld Classification, Apex Predator, Threat Level, Extreme. "This specimen," Aliana continued, manipulating the hologram to reveal razor-sharp dentition and musculature designed for explosive violence, represents the baseline for untameable fauna. Attempts at domestication across 17 different civilizations resulted in 43 fatalities and the abandonment of all such programs. A hand rose from the human section of the amphitheater. Aliana's translucent eyelids flickered with surprise. Humans were relatively new to the Galactic Academic Consortium, their admission barely 2 standard cycles old. This one appeared young even by their ephemeral standards, perhaps 25 solar rotations if her xenobiology database was accurate. "Yes, human," she consulted her neural roster, James Caldwell. "We call those pets, Professor," James said, his tone polite but matter-of-fact. The amphitheater erupted in a cacophony of confusion, chittering, warbling, and electromagnetic static from species who communicated through radio frequencies. Aliana raised 3 of her forearms for silence. "I'm uncertain I understand your statement, Mr. Caldwell. Are you suggesting humans have successfully domesticated Category 7 fauna?" James stood, his bipedal frame seeming suddenly more substantial than his modest stature suggested. "Not exactly that species, ma'am, but yeah, we've domesticated pretty much everything you've got listed in Category 7. Could you pull up the full classification database?" Aliana's skepticism manifested as a subtle darkening of her chromatophores, but intellectual curiosity overrode protocol. With a neural command, she expanded the holographic display to show the complete Category 7 listing: 3,247 species across known space, each marked with red hazard indicators. James approached the display, and Aliana noticed several students instinctively recoil. An interesting data point about human reputation she filed away for later analysis. "Okay, let's start simple," James said, gesturing at a quadrupedal creature with prominent fangs and powerful jaw musculature. "That's basically a wolf. We domesticated those about 15,000 years ago. We call them dogs now. There are 452 breeds on Earth, ranging from animals that can fit in your palm to ones that weigh 90 kilograms. "Impossible," interjected a Vrelian student, their carapace vibrating with disbelief. "The lupus ferox analog requires 2.7 megajoules of force to restrain. The metabolic demands alone—" "Yeah, we bred most of that out," James interrupted, not unkindly. "Took a few millennia, but we selected for companionship traits instead of hunting efficiency. Now we've got service dogs, therapy dogs, companion dogs. We literally engineered them to love us." Aliana's 3-lobed brain processed this information with difficulty. The psychological manipulation required for such behavioral modification would necessitate neural surgery or genetic. "Just selective breeding. We let the friendly ones reproduce and separated out the aggressive ones. Give it enough generations and you get a completely different behavioral profile." James scrolled through the display with casual familiarity. "Oh, and that one. He pointed at a feline predator with retractable claws and exceptional night vision adaptations. "We call those cats. They domesticated themselves, actually. Showed up at our grain stores about 10,000 years ago to hunt rodents. We thought they were useful. They thought we were useful. Now there are 600 million of them living in human households." Self-domestication. Aliana's voice carried genuine academic fascination. "That suggests a level of behavioral plasticity inconsistent with Category 7 classification." "Or maybe," James suggested carefully, "your classification system doesn't account for the right variables. What behaviors are you testing for?" Aliana brought up the standardized protocols: aggression response, territorial defense mechanisms, predatory drive assessment, hierarchical dominance patterns. James nodded slowly. "Right, but you're not testing for adaptability, social learning, or resource negotiation. Humans don't really tame animals by dominating them. We form symbiotic relationships. We provide food, shelter, medical care, and they provide companionship, labor, or protection. It's mutualism, not subjugation." A Thesan student, her elongated skull tilted in confusion, spoke up. "But humans are classified as a Category 3 sentience, barely post-industrial. How did you develop domestication protocols more sophisticated than species with a million-year technological advantage?" James shrugged, the gesture eloquent in its simplicity. "We didn't develop protocols, we just lived alongside them. Started maybe 40,000 years ago, before we had agriculture or writing or cities. A human and a wolf sat by the same fire, shared the same mammoth carcass, and figured out they were better together than apart." He pulled up another entry from the database: a massive herbivore with territorial aggression patterns that had killed 23 trained xenobiologists. "That's basically a horse. We've been riding them for 6,000 years. Used them to build civilizations, fight wars, explore continents. They're strong enough to kill us with a single kick, but we taught them to trust us instead." Aliana felt her certainty dissolving like morning frost under a binary star system. "Mr. Caldwell, are you suggesting that Category 7 fauna aren't untameable? They're merely untamed." "With respect, Professor, I'm suggesting your categories might be based on asking the wrong questions. You're trying to figure out which species can be controlled. We figured out which species could be partners." The amphitheater had gone silent, 400 sensory organs focused on the young human, who had just inverted their understanding of xenofauna interaction theory. Aliana made a decision that would later be cited in the revision of 17 major xenobiological texts. "Mr. Caldwell, how would you feel about co-authoring a research proposal? I believe the Galactic Academic Consortium needs to learn something about domestication from a species that mastered it before they mastered fire." James grinned, a display of teeth that on any other predator would signal aggression, but on humans somehow conveyed warmth. "I'd be honored, Professor, but fair warning, once we're done, you might want to reclassify humans too. We domesticated ourselves just as much as we domesticated everything else." As the class dissolved into excited discussion, Aliana reflected that humanity's greatest trick wasn't taming the untamable. It was recognizing that untamable was never the right word to begin with. Outside the amphitheater, James checked his datapad and smiled. The message from his sister back on Earth included a photo: her new puppy, a rescue with wolf ancestry, sleeping peacefully beside her infant daughter. Some things, he thought, transcended taxonomy entirely.